Hello. Today I have an interesting subject for you. It's a question. And that question is, where does all the evil go? It's an interesting question because as a Christian, or I should say a Christian practitioner, I have to make that distinction because I think that there is a difference in experience between a person who calls themselves a Christian, which means maybe they've accepted the religion or they go to church or whatever the case may be, maybe they were born into it, and then a Christian practitioner. I'm not going to say that one's better than the other at all, but I do think that they require something different from one person to the other. I consider myself a Christian practitioner. What that means is that I'm going to make every effort in this life to try to put into practice the tenets of Christianity. As I see them, that I'm going to dedicate myself to the teachings, to the lineage, to the heritage of Christianity, and not the religious, like we got it all right and everybody else has got it all wrong. Not that that's how some people express themselves. That's not my style. My thing is more an internal pilgrimage, an internal journey within myself. And as I experience life and reflect on the teachings of the scriptures and some of the expositions that come from other people who study this walk, I pay attention to what happens on the inside of me. Not so much as I pay attention to what happens on the outside of me. Because ultimately I think that whatever is happening on the inside is the true experience of Christianity from my point of view. So, where does all the evil go? I bring it up because obviously there are teachings in the Bible that say things like do not repay evil for evil and turn the other cheek, love your neighbor as yourself, love your enemies, all sorts of things. And that presents an interesting challenge for people who are trying to be Christian practitioners. There are lots of ways that I think people try to manifest this ideal of not repaying evil for evil. But at the same time, it begs the question, where does the evil go? Because say, for example, you have a person and they come up to you and they quite literally slap you on your cheek. And you're like, okay, I just got slapped by this person. Don't know why. Or maybe I do know why, but maybe the person was wrong for slapping me in the first place. How do I respond to it? Do I say, oh, brother or sister, I love you. Here's my other cheek, slap that one. Some people might say yes. Some people might say no. Some people may say, well, Jesus said turn the other cheek, and he meant turn that person's cheek. They slapped you and turned yours. You turn the other cheek. I'll slap you and turn your cheek. There we go, brothers and sisters. But when I slap you, let me slap you in love. I mean, there's all sorts of ways of interpreting it. So I'm not going to focus on interpretation. What I'm going to focus on instead is, where does the evil go? Because what ends up happening is if a person comes and slaps you out of malice, out of evil, because there's reasons to slap people that's not even evil. Maybe the person's going out of their mind and a slap's the only thing that can wake them up. Or they're fainted, or you don't know if they're having a heart attack, and you're awake. Good reason to slap. So slapping, to use this analogy, is not evil or good in and of itself. What makes it good or evil is the inspiration or motivation behind the action. So let's say a person clearly says, I don't like your face. Your face makes life not good to me. Therefore, I will slap your face, and I would rather your face never was. Pretty harsh, right? I hate you, slap, evil. My intention is to destroy you, diminish you, make you feel like a terrible person, right? Okay, so you got this person, they're all evil and they slap you. Now, for most of us, if we're operating according to laws of physics, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. You slap me with some evil, I got that evil on me. Guess what? I'm going to give your evil back. Slap, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. You slap me, I slap you. I know where the evil went. The evil came at me. Now the evil went back to you. And then maybe the person who slaps me thinks, let's say they think I'm a punk, right? So then they slap me. And they say, that punk's not going to do anything. But little do they know, on the other side of this hand is some force they could not have imagined. Watch out! I slap them. Now that I slap them so hard that I turn their other cheek, I maybe turn their cheek 2 or 3 times. Slap, whoop, whoop. They spin around. Holy moly. I just gave that person a dose of evil. They just gave me 2, 3 times the dose of evil. Now what is that person going to do? Their evil has just multiplied itself. I come back with force they couldn't imagine. But that person now has the evil back. Now not only do they have the evil that they put out the first time, they have about 3 doses of evil. Now what are they going to do with it? Well, most lazy people will say, well, they're not going to reflect. So what they'll do is say, well, I got to get this evil off of me somehow. Let me find a weaker person that I may then cast my evil upon. But someone who cannot come back at me with the equal dose of evil or greater dose of evil. So they go and they abuse somebody smaller, younger, weaker, whatever the case may be. They dump it. Maybe it's older. They get all their evil off of them. Now this person's got the evil. Now what does that person do? Well, let's just say that they're a weaker person. And they, in every way, they don't have the ability to give that person a 2 or 3 times slap like I just did. So then that person does a new kind of evil, a different kind of evil, a kind of evil that we don't even think about much. And unfortunately, it's the kind of evil that a lot of spiritual people do. They turn the evil on themselves. So somebody comes, they slap you, and instead of saying, reflecting on it or something like that, they say, oh man, I deserve it. I suck. Blah, blah, blah. And they go into this new kind of evil. They take that evil and they hold it upon themselves and they feel terrible. That's a different kind of evil. We don't think of it as that. Some of us feel like, oh, I'm being gracious, or I'm being a martyr, all this other stuff like that. That's evil too. Even though you might not know it, you might think it makes you a good person to let somebody abuse you or treat you like garbage. But instead, the evil goes somewhere. It stays with you. So then you're thinking terrible about yourself. And that person who slapped you thought terrible about themselves. Now you're feeling terrible about yourself. And maybe you may never go and like actively, abuse another person that is weaker than you and like keep the cycle going. But instead, you're sitting there feeling terrible. Aren't you somebody too? Aren't you worthy of love too? So then, what do? Well, Jesus says, love your enemies. What does that mean? Do you say, okay, I love this person that's treating me like garbage, so I'm going to let them keep treating me like garbage? Of course not. Love awakens. Love enlightens. Love helps people become better. Sometimes you have to say something harsh to a person in love, like Jesus calling people hypocrites and foxes and all this other stuff. In my mind, he said out of love. He's like, wake up, stop being crazy. You're looking in the scriptures trying to find eternal life. It's not there. I'm sitting here telling you what it is. Crazy hypocrite person. But he's saying it out of love because he knows that person is like, they're out of it. So I'm bringing that to say that you don't just take the evil on you and just sit there and feel terrible too. But then, again, the question is, where does it go? You don't give it back. You don't take it on yourself. Well, where does it go? And this is the answer. Grace. Isn't that interesting? Grace, my friends. Grace, which is the inheritance of all life, all beings. Grace is actually the reality within which all this drama plays itself out. We work out everything in this house of grace, unbeknownst to ourselves. And in this grace, which may sometimes be called like the sea of forgetfulness or whatever kind of analogy you want to come up with, we act out this thing. And when the evil comes, or the evil comes out of us, or comes towards us, grace absorbs it. Grace is like the light. You can throw all the shadows you want over light, and it will not overwhelm it. Grace is that light that God is, that in Psalm 139, where it says that a light and the dark are the same to God. They all shine before God, because God is all light, all grace. And in that space of grace, well, in some way, the evil has never happened. The evil has no power. It's only in that space of illusion where we create these dichotomies of this versus that and up versus down, and we separate things which are all one. But in grace, you can play all the games you want. It doesn't change reality. And this is where the evil goes. Because once we come to the point of grace and the point of realizing how loved we are, when someone does come towards us with some of their evil, it doesn't ultimately matter how you respond to it, as long as you stay in the consciousness that you are loved, and at the same time, this person that's coming at you with their evil is also loved. It transmutes it, it transduces it, it turns it into something other than what it may appear to be. And all of a sudden, something like a guy dying when he doesn't have to isn't evil anymore. And the people who committed it aren't evil anymore, because reality has set in. Grace has set in. And we see and come to be one with the reality of love. It's an interesting place to be. Because while you're standing in that place, you may see people going crazy. You may see people denying reality, denying love. You may be loving someone right now and they'll say, "You don't love me," and you know you do. But they can't hear you because they haven't benefited from grace. But what do you do about it? Do you let the evil, the denial of love from that person make you deny love of yourself, or even deny the love in them? No. When you're able to love yourself and transmit that love out into the world regardless of what happens, that love is the reason why you do everything that you do. It doesn't matter what it looks like, because you're operating in that space of grace. That's where the evil goes. Don't let it stick to you. Don't transmit it to others. Just know that it's an illusion. It's not real.